If you're building native apps in B4X, you know the drill. Getting that slick, modern web-style UI can sometimes feel like a real uphill battle. Well, today, we're going to look at a single component that's designed to completely change that, bringing absolutely beautiful, super customizable buttons to all your B4A, B4I, and B4J projects. So here's the plan. First, we'll talk about what this thing actually is. Then, we'll get our hands dirty with core styling, colors and sizes. After that, we'll get into the really cool stuff, advanced styles and shapes. We'll also cover icons and loading states, explore this awesome declarative styling method, and wrap up with a feature that's a huge time saver: one-click social login buttons. Let's get into it. All right, so let's set the scene. One of the trickiest parts of native development can be making your UI elements just look good. You want them to feel as clean and responsive as what you see on the web. And buttons? They're usually the first thing that starts to feel a little, dated. I mean, just look at this. On the left, you've got your standard out-of-the-box system button. It works, sure, but it's not inspiring anyone. And on the right, that's where we want to be. A whole collection of buttons that are rich, they're colorful, they have purpose. The difference is just night and day, isn't it? So how do we get there? This is it, the B4X DaisyButton. In a nutshell, it's one powerful component that takes all the goodness from modern web frameworks like Tailwind CSS and DaisyUI and lets you use it right inside your native B4X apps. It's a total game changer. Okay, so where do we start? How do you actually use this thing? Well, it all begins with the fundamentals. We're talking about controlling the basic look and feel, and that means colors and sizes. Now, this is a concept I absolutely love. Instead of messing with hex codes for every button, you start with what are called semantic color variants. You're not just picking green, you're choosing success. You're not just picking blue, you're choosing primary. This means you're describing the button's purpose, which keeps your whole UI consistent and your code way easier to read. And of course, you need control over the size. Well, it's literally just one property. You can go from this tiny little XS button, maybe for an icon, all the way up to a huge XL call to action button that demands attention. It's so simple, and it handles all the padding and font scaling for you. All right, we've got colors and sizes down. Now, let's build on that, because we can go way, way beyond just a solid colored box. This is where the real design creativity starts to kick in. So you're not just stuck with the solid default. You've got this entire palette of styles to choose from. Want something a little more subtle? Soft is great for that. Need a secondary button that doesn't steal the show? Outline or ghost are perfect. You've even got dash for a bit of visual flair, and link, which, well, it makes your button look just like a link. Now let's talk about shape. It's amazing how much you can change with a simple true or false property. For instance, you set wide to true, and boom, the button gets wider. It's perfect for when you need a little more breathing room in your design. Or how about this one? You need a button to stretch across the entire width of its container, like in a login form or a pop-up. Just set block to true. Done. It automatically fills the space. So handy for responsive layouts. And this is one of my personal favorites. You know those times when you just want an icon, no text, like a little gear for settings or an X to close something? Well, you just set the shape to square or circle, and you get a perfectly symmetrical button ready for your icon. It's fantastic for toolbars. Okay, our buttons are looking great, but how do we make them more interactive? How do we communicate what's happening in the app visually? This is all about going beyond just a static label. Check out how easy this is. You start with your text, right? Submit. Then you just tell it the name of an SVG file, and bam, you've got a beautiful, crisp icon right there. But here's the real magic. When the user clicks that button, you just set loading to true. It automatically shows a spinner and disables the button. That is perfect user feedback with basically zero effort. So we've seen all these different properties: color, size, style, shape, but setting them one by one can be a bit tedious. What if you could do it all at once, just like you would on the web? Well, that's exactly what the class property is for. And honestly, it feels like magic. Anyone who has ever touched a bit of CSS is going to recognize this immediately. Instead of setting 4 or 5 different properties in your code, you can define the entire style of your button in one single, easy-to-read string. Let's just quickly break this down. BTN gives you the basic button styles. Then you add BTN-primary to set the color. Then BTN outline to change the visual style.
And finally, btn-lg to make it large. Each little piece or token layers on top of the last. It's an incredibly powerful and fast way to build out your UI.
And now for what might be one of the biggest time savers baked into this whole thing. We've all been there, right? You need to add login with Google, login with Facebook, and you have to go find the logos, the right brand colors. It's a pain. Well, what if you could just ask for one? Need a login with Google button? It's already there, ready to go. All the official branding, the icon, the colors, it's all done for you.
Building an app for other developers? No problem. The GitHub login button is right there, styled perfectly.
And it doesn't stop there. We're talking Apple, Facebook, Microsoft, X, a whole bunch more. Think about the hours of tedious design work this saves. It's absolutely brilliant. So let's wrap this up. What does this all really give you? First, it gives you speed. You can build out complex, modern-looking buttons in just seconds. Second, you get consistency. It helps you build a really cohesive design system across your entire app. And finally, you get power. It brings the flexibility of web-inspired styling right into your native B4X world. It just opens up so many possibilities. So I guess the question to leave you with is this. When styling is this fast and this easy, what kind of new interfaces, what kind of better user experiences are you going to be inspired to build in your next B4X project?